The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privilege of the floor will please retire to the gallery. Good morning, senators. Good morning. Good morning, guests. Good morning. The senators and all in attendance will please stand if you are able. We will be led in prayer this morning by the Very Reverend Nicholas G. Bacalus of Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church in Richmond. He is also a member of the chaplaincy staff at the University of Richmond. Following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing. We will be led this morning in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by our Senate page, Lila Eter of Lynchburg.
May we bow our heads in prayer. Almighty and merciful Lord, we bow our heads in gratitude for the abundant blessings bestowed upon us, for the bounties of our land, and for our blessing of being citizens of our Commonwealth and of the United States of America. We thank you for our special privilege of being the elected leaders serving in this esteemed body, which allows us to serve our fellow citizens. Yet, Lord, we live in difficult times, facing many challenges. Our system of government encourages deliberation and compromise, with the result of finding common ground, reaching resolution that serves not only our own constituents, but including what is best for all the citizens of Virginia. Guide us to overcome the divisions that often impede the proper addressing of the issues so that we may work in a more harmonious manner. Help us to honor our faith traditions which stress respect, peace, and unity. We further pray for your blessings upon all members of the Senate and their families, their staff, the support staff throughout this building, as all offer of their time and talent for the continued progress of our Commonwealth. For you are the one who bestows abundant blessings upon us, for which we express our thanksgiving and gratitude. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Tuesday, January 31st, 2023.
The senator from Northern Fairfax County, Senator Howell, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All those in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 2.
Ayes 36, noes 2. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will now report any communications from the House. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that we waive the reading of the communications from the House of Delegates.
The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? Those in favor of waiving the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the governor.
I do not have any, Madam President.
Now comes the time in the morning hour when we will discover who our wonderful guests are. The normal procedure is that a senator will rise and we will hear about you, and please rise at that time. I will give my remarks and we will hold our applause until then. And so with that, I do call on the senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam President. It's my honor I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It's my honor to thank and introduce the Reverend who gave our invocation this morning. Father Bacalus was appointed in 1996 as Dean of the Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Cathedral in Richmond, Virginia. In addition to his parish responsibilities, he also serves as regional vicar for Southern Virginia on behalf of His Eminence Metropolitan Evangelos of the Metropolis of New Jersey. He serves as spiritual advisor to the National Forum of Greek Orthodox Church Musicians and the Eastern Federation of Greek Orthodox Church Musicians. He is also a member of the coordinating cabinet of the Virginia Council of Churches and a member of the chaplaincy staff at the University of Richmond. Very, very busy, and we are so thankful for the spiritual leadership that Father provides for all Richmonders. And on behalf of the Richmond delegation, I ask that we give the warmest welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Father, and thank you for that prayer, and thank you for all that you do in our great community. I don't know how you find the time to do all of that. Thank you for those sacrifices. Amen. Senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Cosgrove, the senior senator from Chesapeake.
Thank you, Madam President, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Madam President, I rise for 2 introductions.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. First, on behalf of the Hampton Roads delegation, I'd like to recognize that in the gallery, we have a group from the Hampton Roads Realtors Association for their annual Day on the Hill. Now, they represent approximately 5,000 members representing Southside Hampton Roads as they fight for affordable housing and private property rights. And Madam President, today we have with us a very dear friend of mine, Barbara Squalia, whose daughter, Grace, was a page for us in the past. We also have Linda Harrison, Tracy Van Camp, Katrina Brown, Jeremy Caleb Johnson, Phil Kasmerick, Mr. Frazier, Pat Steele, another dear friend, and Brenda Tukar, excuse me. Madam President, these folks work really, really hard to try to take care of people that want to buy a home, so I hope you will offer them the very warmest welcome of our Senate.
Please rise. There you all are. Good morning to you, and thank you for what you do to help us in the community to find homes, to ask the right questions when buying a home, as well as selling a home, and for the mortgage and everything else that you do. Even on Thanksgiving, we know that you're working. Thank you very much. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Madam President. My second introduction is one I'm really excited about. This lady that I'm going to introduce to you is a newlywed. She's beautiful. She's graceful. She's gracious. She's intelligent. She's congenial. And I already said patient. The only detractor I can see for this person is she might have questionable taste in husbands. And maybe eyesight, yes. But, Madam President, in the gallery, we have with us, to our delight, Mrs. Helen DeSteff, to come see her husband in action. Now, I will tell you that I've come to know and love Helen, and I can tell everyone on this floor that she is the best thing to ever happen to my dear friend and seatmate, Senator DeStaff.
Please rise, Mrs. DeStaff. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the joy that you bring to your senator, because he is your senator and your husband as well. And I think you have good eyesight. Senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Well, thank you, Madam President. President, I have wanted to welcome some guests in the gallery here.
The senator has the floor.
All right. I've always had a policy since I came to the Senate of trying to meet with people who wanted to meet with me when we're down here in session. Unfortunately, in the last couple of years, I've been very busy and rarely in my office, but I have a staff of people who are very welcoming and very good in conversation. And one of the groups that has come to our office today is the Defending Life group, and they are here in the gallery, and I want to ask you to give them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Please rise. Thank you for coming, and thank you for providing your voice to the very necessary things that we are talking about here. We must hear all groups. Thank you for being here, for being a part of the process. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the gentleman from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I'm pleased to announce there's a group in the gallery from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I would ask you to give them the warm greetings of the Senate. Thank you.
Please rise. Thank you for trying to protect life. Thank you for being there, and I know that you hear a lot of horror stories firsthand, but thank you for staying in that space, because, well, it's just a terrible thing. Thank you. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Hackworth, the gentleman from Tazewell.
Good afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon.
I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Today is Radford University's Advocacy Day, and we have a special group of students visiting the Capitol and joining us in the gallery. I have the honor of representing Radford University, which is a public university in Southwest Virginia that was founded by the Virginia General Assembly in 1910. In addition to the main campus located in Radford, Radford University also offers a health sciences campus in Roanoke, Radford University Carilion, which is represented by my friend and colleague across the aisle, Delegate Razul, and Senator John Edwards. The Radford University students here with us today are from all regions of the Commonwealth. They are here to share their stories with you, what drew them to Radford University, their programs of study, and their plans after graduation. I encourage you to come to Southwest Virginia and visit Radford University and Radford University Carilion to learn more about the high-quality education experiences offered by this great institution. Madam President, if you would, help me give them a warm welcome of the Senate.
Please rise. We love to see your fresh, shining faces because you are our future. And we know that you will do great and mighty things. And in fact, we just heard that your university was started by the General Assembly, this very body. And so you know that the government can do some good. So, senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator McClellan, the senior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator may continue.
Thank you. Joining us in the gallery, we have members of Assisting Families of Inmates, which has been serving families and children impacted by the incarceration of a loved one for over the past 45 years. The mission is to support the underserved families of the incarcerated by providing meaningful visitation, family assistance, and children's programs that achieve positive evidence-based outcomes. Today, Master of Social Work students who work in the organization's Milk and Cookies Children Program for children of an incarcerated parent are here, and I ask that we give them a warm Senate welcome.
Please rise. We thank you for what you do so frequently when the member of the family is incarcerated. The child is left feeling as if nobody cares. And thank you that outside the family, you are there, coming alongside to help. Thank you very much for what you do. It's very appreciated. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Hearing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on third reading.
Chair calls on Senator Saslaw, the senior senator from Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that the Senate bills on third reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 1 through 4, that's Senate Bill 848 through Senate Bill 1498, be placed on their final passage in a block. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested third calendar, pages 1 through 4, Senate Bills 848 through Senate Bills 1498, be placed upon their final passage in the block with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill to be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 848, Senate Bill 981, Senate Bill 1035, Senate Bill 1127, Senate Bill 1262, Senate Bill 1381, Senate Bill 1412, Senate Bill 1198.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? All in favor of passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 946, a bill related to campaign finance, fundraising during special sessions prohibited. We have 4 floor amendments.
Chair calls on Senator Newman. Chair calls on Senator Suderline, the gentleman from Roanoke County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we reconsider the vote by which we engrossed and advanced Senate Bill 946 to its third constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 946 was engrossed and advanced be reconsidered? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill is reconsidered. Senator Sudeline.
Thank you, Madam President. I would yield to the senator from Bedford.
Senator Newman.
Madam President, I move that we waive the reading of the floor amendments.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendments be waived? All those in favor of waiving the reading will say aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor amendments are waived. Senator Newman.
Madam President, speaking to the amendments.
Senator has the floor.
Madam President, on this bill, a bill that I never planned to speak on, it was pointed out to me that some want us to be fundraising during session, some have other opinions on that. However, in the bill as written, it would clearly indicate, as was stated on this floor before, that if we were in pro forma session, which means none of us are here or maybe one or two of us are here, it would apply in that case. The amendments 1 through 4 fix that problem and state very clearly that is a session that is not a pro forma session. And then Legislative Services indicated in number 4 that we needed a definition of pro forma session because they could not find one otherwise in the code. So, Madam Chair, I move that the amendments be agreed to.
The question is, Chair recognizes Senator Somerville, the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County.
Madam President, will the senator from Lynchburg or Bedford rise for a question?
Will the senator rise?
I rise, yes.
Senator Somerville has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to make clear to everybody what this does. So think back to the 2020 Science Museum session where we had to appear because we couldn't agree on things with the House or the other body 1 or 2 days a week over about a 3-month period. So this amendment would not address the reality that, say, every other week we meet for a day or so because we can't agree on dates. Wouldn't address that situation because we'd actually be present and legislating 1 day a week for like a 2-month period or something, right?
Madam President, I would say to the gentleman, yes. Before, under the original bill, it covers the entire time, months and months and months. And there are some of us that think that on those pro forma days that we are actually not here, not in session, maybe it should not apply. So that's the reason why this is narrower, but it is not as narrow as maybe you would like.
Madam President.
Senator Somerville has the floor.
I have a further question.
For the question of Senator Newman.
I yield.
Senator yields. Senator Somerville.
Thank you, Madam President. So just assuming like one of these, like what happened in 2020, because your amendment doesn't cover that, assuming that we got called in on like 3 or 4 days notice, and while we're in session that day down here in Richmond, a check were to arrive in our P.O. box back home because somebody sent us the check not realizing we were going to be in session in 4 days. What type of situation does that create, in terms of the criminal consequences for those of us? I'm trying to show exactly when the check came in and when the check didn't come in and when it was sent and when it was dated.
Senator Newman has the floor.
Madam President, I believe the gentleman is making a case against the bill, and I get it. But that's not, the amendment is trying to say, let's make sure that the pro forma days, which is often many of those days, are not included. I think your arguments are perfectly fine, but are probably headed toward the bill.
Madam President?
Senator Somerville.
Speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The only reason I asked the questions is to show that the amendment doesn't deal with the problems with the bill. The bill has a lot of problems which have not been fully fleshed out or thought through by everyone and create lots of consequences if we don't fully figure this stuff out before it's out here on the floor. And so having said that, Madam President, having discussed it a little bit on our side, I wish we had discussed it more. I would move that we recommit this bill to the Committee on Privileges and Elections so we can actually have a fuller and more robust debate on correcting the issues with the bill.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Sudeline, the gentleman from Roanoke County.
May I speak to that motion?
The senator has the floor.
Well, I was told that the request might be for it to go by for the day. That's what I was told about 2 minutes ago by the member that made the motion. So that's a bit of surprise. But I would like to tell the chamber and anyone else that's listening, we all know that there's no more meetings of Senate Privileges and Elections meeting. So that is not actually, I don't think it's a genuine consideration to further consider this bill. I think that it is an attempt to not have to vote on this bill so that we can continue fundraising during special sessions. And I also had planned to speak to the amendment that was just before us, but it looks like I have to speak now because unexpectedly this motion was made. We had a bill last year that would have made very clear you can't fundraise during any special session. Because I don't think that we should be fundraising while we're in session. I don't think we should be allowed to fundraise right now. I think questions about what happens with a check when you might be in Richmond, all those things happen right now with regular sessions and the law. And we all know how to deal with what we do. Do you accept it or don't you accept it? Well, you don't accept it because we're meeting. There was a possibility to have a bill that would say we don't fundraise during special session at all. But some others would like us to be able to stay in special session year-round for other constitutional reasons, and in doing so say, no, we should be allowed to fundraise. I think the benefit of having a total ban on fundraising during special session would also discourage the gamesmanship in which we stay in special session year-round. And so it's pretty frustrating to me that a bill that comes out on a strong bipartisan vote, and I'm told, oh, we might need a minute more to discuss this, then 2 minutes later, the motion is actually to recommit it to the committee. I don't think that's the way we usually do things in the Senate, and I hope this isn't the way we're doing it. And I'd suggest that there's a lot of time left, and we should not go down this path. Because the one thing there's not enough time for is actually for it to be reconsidered in committee. So I don't think that's a genuine suggestion that would be what happens. This motion, if it's to recommit, is to kill the bill without voting on it, which is something that I recall some folks talking about how terrible it was that used to happen in the other chamber down the hall so often. And I hope we're not going down that path.
Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the gentleman from Fairfax City.
Thank you, Madam President. I with all love and affection and due respect for my colleague, I actually am going to support this motion, and I do think this bill has
the senator has the floor.
I apologize, Madam President. Here's the deal. When we're in regular session, it's for a defined period of time. We know what it is going in, and we know what it is going out. That is advertised. It's published. Everybody knows that. Special session is just that. It's special. It often happens spontaneously. We go from day to day. We can very rarely plan ahead. And I know we all many times have to adjust our work schedules. You could have events set up with constituents, with supporters, whomever. You have no control. Now, that's not to say, I agree, I don't want people walking into the State Assembly handing out checks. Of course not. But you may be back in your district, or you may have an event. It may even be a small dollar event. And you'd have to cancel it just because you were in special session that morning. Again, I think there's merit to this idea. And I think, for example, in a veto session or something where we have a defined day or we have a 30-day notice, that's fine. But just doing this willy-nilly is going to set up a trap for all of us. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. And it's going to make it just like my colleague said, it's going to make it almost impossible to determine whether or not you're following the law just because special sessions happen so quickly and with so little notice. So I do think we're going to recommit, and if that makes me the bad guy, say goodnight to the bad guy. Thanks.
Chair recognizes Senator Stewart, the gentleman from King George.
Madam President, speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I'm going to support the motion to recommit the bill, and here's why. I don't understand the bill. I've read it. I asked the patron when I came in, what does it mean when you say when we're scheduled to meet? What does it mean now when you say when you're scheduled to meet in a pro forma session? Does that mean the entirety of a special session? I don't know. Could it be interpreted that way? I don't know. I don't understand it. The language is vague and broad. It's not specific. and I don't really understand how to read the bill. To the gentleman's point from Eastern Fairfax, it's so many of you all from Fairfax, I can't keep it straight. Eastern Fairfax is exactly right. It's poorly drawn. We need to fix it. The idea is a good one, and we shouldn't. But we need to send it back and get it fixed.
Chair again recognizes Senator Newman, the gentleman from Bedford.
Madam President, actually, my interest in this was the amendments, and so I'll let this vote go.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 946 be recommitted to the Privileges and Elections Committee? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is recommitted to the Privileges and Elections Committee.
Senate Bill 843. Senate Bill 843, a bill relating to retired circuit court and district court judges, recall, evaluation, qualification by Senate Committee on the Judiciary and House Committee for Courts of Justice.
Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the gentleman from Fairfax City. Your microphone, sir.
Am I on?
You're on now.
Okay. Rise to speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this is Senate Bill 843.
Senator Peterson, the gentleman will suspend. The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. That was impressive. Okay. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 843 deals with a situation with retired judges, which I think is not anybody's fault. It's just sort of how the process has played out. We have a system whereby when judges are reelected on any level, they have to come back to the General Assembly, and we solicit community input and often input from the Bar Association. And attorneys come forward and give what are very often their candid opinions, sometimes at professional risk to themselves. And occasionally those judges are not reappointed, or they seek reappointment and end up having to retire because they are not going to be reappointed. And what happens, unfortunately, is the Supreme Court will simply go ahead and put them right back on the bench as a retired judge, which means that same attorney that had appeared in front of them and decided to testify against them in a committee down here will suddenly be appearing again in front of them just a few weeks or a few months later. And I think it's led to some unfortunate situations, and I'm not casting aspersions on any one person or any retired judge or anybody for that matter, other than I think we need to make a delineation that those judges that were not reappointed, consciously not reappointed, should not just be put back on automatically. And that's simply what this bill does. You know, it's funny. A lot of people like to talk about the percentages of people that support their bills. And I will simply say I've talked to a lot of particularly female attorneys in Fairfax County, and they all support this bill as far as I know. So I ask you to vote for it. Thanks.
Chair recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President, and good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Speaking to Senate Bill 843.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, there's another point I think that can be made with regard to why we should support this bill. Again, and echoing the gentleman from Fairfax City, it's not because of any one single judge or anything of that nature at all, but we go through a pretty vigorous vetting process, and sometimes that carries over 2 or 3 or 4 vetting sessions. And at the end of the day, if the body determines that an individual judge doesn't warrant reappointment, it makes absolutely no sense that that same judge who was denied reappointment by the entire General Assembly steps right back into his exact role the next day or the next week in a substitute capacity. And much like probably a poor analogy, you eject somebody from an NFL game and they are automatically suspended the next week, but then they come back the next week in a substitute role.
It just does not make any sense. So I'd ask that the body would support SB 843.
Chair recognizes Senator Stanley, the gentleman from Franklin County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking against the measure.
The senator has the floor.
You know, and I really didn't mean to stand up on this. I was hoping we could probably solve something. But, you know, down in our area, you may have a plethora of judges and an abundance of retired judges. We don't have that in our area. In fact, we need retired judges to fill the gaps that are created because we either don't have funding from this body and the body down the hall for another judgeship. And what this, I think, unintentionally does is sweep up politics and replace dignity with the political whims of maybe a local bar or one of us here. And the potential is there because, you know, judges, when we put them on the bench, we vet them so they went on the bench. Usually they have a good legal career and basis for being on the bench. Sometimes those judges don't work out. Sometimes the personalities weren't made to be a judge. Sometimes, and a lot of times, and I've said this to my friend, the senator from Hanover, if you think there's politics in this chamber, go to a local bar meeting. Sometimes those members of the bar are also ambitious. They will get a cadre of their friends when we send out the questionnaires for the evaluations for these judges. Hey, let's give them a stinking rating. Let's give her a stinking rating. Because they don't want them there because maybe they ruled against them on one case this way or one case that way. Could be one of us with the same mind thought. So when the courts of justice committees determine for themselves not to certify, or the bodies determine for themselves not to elect, it may not always be because of the temperament of the judge, or what the judge, or how the judge is, or misfeasance or malfeasance. It could be very, very other personal reasons that have nothing to do with that retired judge's abilities. And here's where I think we go a little too far with this bill. This is a black mark on an otherwise good legal career. We make automatic decisions about these judges without considering them on a case-by-case basis. We just say, well, if you had to retire because we didn't reappoint you, then you were a bad judge. So now you can't sit in retirement. Is that blanket kind of determination may besmirch the character, integrity, and reputation of an otherwise brilliant legal career. And then we still come back to the one thing. If we had enough judges sitting out there, maybe we wouldn't have to have the Supreme Court put the judges back onto the field. Making this blanket kind of determination under Senate Bill 843 without treating this on a case-by-case basis so that we all know that when we've taken off a judge for a certain reason, then if they came back and applied to us to sit instead of being appointed by the Supreme Court, we could make that determination at that time. But ladies and gentlemen, this bill, I understand why it's there. I have experienced why it's here many, many, many years ago. But I don't think it's the right way to treat our judges, who quite frankly come out of private practice, most of them, sacrifice their time, sacrifice their rate of pay to do something that we ask them to do, and then we treat them unkindly on their way out the door. Madam President, I ask that this body consider defeating Senate Bill 843. Thank you.
Chair again recognizes Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank my colleague for raising those points, and I'll simply respond as follows. You know, all of us will be on the ballot this year, and some of us won't be coming back. And you know what? We're not going to get to sit in this seat if we don't get elected. And there's just consequences when you have elections. And again, I'm not besmirching anyone's character, but no one has a right to sit as a judge. And there are plenty of people in the community, in the legal community, that are sitting as substitute judges right now. These are retired judges that are appointed by a Supreme Court that oftentimes is not in touch with that community. And that's all I'm simply asking to do. Just simply make the same distinction that is going to apply to us when we're up for re-election this year. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 8.
Ayes 32, noes 8. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1227, a bill relating to Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation, effect of criminal convictions on licensure, data to be included in biennial report.
Chair recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, at the request of a member, I would again request that this bill, which squeaked by 1401, be passed by for the day.
Passed by for the day.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Without objection, Senate Bill 1227 passes by for the day.
Senate Bill 861, a bill relating to traffic control device violation monitoring systems.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the gentlelady from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Bill 861 pass and speak into that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Senate Bill 861 authorizes the localities in Planning District 23 to establish a traffic control device violation monitoring system, imposing monetary liability on the operator of a motor vehicle for failure to comply with traffic control devices at any intersection deemed by the local governing body to be negatively impacted by traffic due to the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion Project, I-64 Express Lanes 4C project. The bill sunsets on July 1st, 2027, or upon certification by the Secretary of Transportation that the I-64 Express Lanes project 4C is complete, whichever is earlier. The bill contains technical amendments that have been worked out with VDOT and DMV. Again, I move passage of Senate Bill 861.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 29, noes 11.
Ayes 29, noes 11. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 901, a bill relating to firearm and unattended motor vehicle civil penalty.
Chair recognizes Senator Morrison, the gentleman from Western Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. What this bill does is require that a lawfully secured handgun left in a vehicle, and that vehicle becomes unattended by the driver leaving the car and getting out of sight of that car, that car needs to be locked. The original version of the bill had a provision in for that the handgun also had to be locked within the car, but that was taken off. We don't have that requirement in the bill. Just a quick history: before 2010. The laws of concealed weapons applied to people who didn't have a concealed weapons permit. If you had a gun in your car, you could get a Class 1 misdemeanor. That was changed in 2010, and we went with this secured language. In other words, it just can't be rattling around. Many people put them between the seat and the center console with the handle showing. Some put it in the door slot, different places. But the issue here is a handgun left in an unattended vehicle, not a long rifle. And we're having an epidemic of this kind of thing in Portsmouth, in Virginia Beach, in Southwest Virginia, in Gretna. Gretna had 5 of these incidents, all of them in unlocked vehicles. I'm sure there are some guns being stolen from cars where they're breaking the window and going in and getting it, and you know, that's a serious offense. It's a serious offense to go into somebody's car to do that, and I hope people, you know, get punished for it. But the bottom line here is, we had 714 of these incidents just here in the city of Richmond. 714. We're having an uptick in violence. We're having an uptick in juveniles, a huge uptick in juveniles being caught on weapons offenses, meaning they're possessing weapons. I suspect this is where they're getting them. They're not going into gun stores. They're not making private sales. They're going car to car, and we have evidence of these youth in film, filmed by cameras in the community, going up and down the street, pulling on car doors. It was driven. This bill is written to the traffic section of the code. It requires a civil penalty of up to $500, and and you could get your car towed. So there's no criminalizing of the offense here. It is merely a traffic offense. City of Richmond has flyered the community about not allowing, or about telling people not to leave them in unattended cars that are not locked. They've done everything they can do. We need this kind of a penalty. It's an epidemic around the Commonwealth. It's costing people their lives. It's dangerous, and it is just a traffic violation. But it's somehow we've got to get the attention of responsible gun owners to make sure that their vehicles are locked. Thank you so much.
Chair recognizes Senator Chase, the junior senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question for the patron.
Will the senator yield?
I yield.
The gentleman yields. Senator Chase has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. My question would be this. Let's just say that we are under the current law and localities are able to create gun-free zones. That's currently the law of the land. I'm a law-abiding gun owner, and I carry to protect myself, and I go to a gun-free zone. So my question would be, what am I supposed to do as a law-abiding citizen with my gun whenever I go to the Chesterfield County Fair, for instance, and I'm told I can't carry? What am I supposed to do with my weapon?
Senator Marsden has the floor.
Madam President, the answer to that question is to secure the gun in your car, in the door slot or whatever, that qualifies, and lock it. That's all you have to do. If you're at the library or you're someplace where there's a gun-free zone, just lock it in your car. You can't take it into the building, and I guess that is the gentlewoman's question: is to what do I do with it? It's merely lock your car.
Madam President,
Senator Chase,
to speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
You know, this has been one of my concerns, and why I introduced a bill to repeal the gun law that we passed back in 2020. That basically requires law-abiding citizens to disarm themselves before they go into a gun-free zone and what we do with our weapon. You are less likely to have issues if you keep your gun with you on your person, and your gun is not your gun is not stolen out of your vehicle, because that's typically what happens. And I think while I understand the intent, and it seems to me, most law-abiding citizens are responsible. They're going to lock their vehicle, and in fact, in most situations, cars are broken into because there are gun-free zones. Madam President, I would argue that the correct solution would be to eliminate gun-free zones. Allow people who carry guns to keep them on their person and eliminate gun-free zones. Then you don't have to worry about guns being stolen out of cars. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, no 16.
Ayes 24, no 16. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 983, a bill relating to alcoholic beverage control, winery and farm winery licenses, requirements and privileges.
Chair recognizes Senator Mason, the gentleman from Williamsburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move the bill pass. And speaking of the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 983, there's already a farm winery license in Virginia, and the Virginia Winery Association wanted to structure it and just make sure that it was in shape. And so what we've done, if you go to line 455, is we've established 4 different classes of license. Class 1 licenses for very small. Got to have an 1.5 acre lot, have to produce the grapes and the wine on your property, excuse me, sir, and at least 250 cases of wine. The original vote for the Virginia Wine Association was 98-3 to support this measure. The 3 that were against it were because the Class 1 wasn't small enough for them. So as we made Class 1 smaller, those 3 are now on board with this licensing. Class 2 and 3 are the mid-level size, not big, but a bit smaller. Class 2, you can produce the fruit on your property. You have to have at least 3 acres, but the wine can be made elsewhere. Class 3, you can buy the fruit from other places, but at least 75% of it has to be grown in Virginia, but you have to produce the wine on your facility. And finally, Madam President, Class 4 is for just the large wineries. And you have to have at least 10 acres, and we will not grant another Class 4 license until you've been in business for at least 7 years. So these are the established wineries that you know about. Finally, Madam President, there's you get anybody that is on the edges or wants to move license has 5 years to come into compliance through July of 2028. Madam President, that's a restructuring of the farm winery licenses, and I ask that you support the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 995, a bill relating to use of handheld personal communication devices in certain motor vehicles.
Chair recognizes Senator Marsden, the gentleman from Western Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill separates a first offense of driving while holding a handheld personal communications device into a separate subsection of 46.2.818.2. And what this does, this charge would allow general district court clerks to enter violations as first offenses in the general district court case management system if identified as a first offense in the charging documents. The ability to identify first offenses in the general district court case management system is a necessary first step before the Supreme Court may consider a proposal to make first offense violations of this section prepayable. In other words, you don't have to go to court. The bill does not make any substantive changes to the law, and it is a recommendation of the Committee on District Courts, and I reiterate my motion that the bill pass. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 25, noes 15.
Ayes 25, noes 15. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1293, a bill relating to bicycles, exemptions to certain traffic control devices, local ordinances.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the gentleman from Charlottesville.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass. I'd like to speak to that motion, please.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. You may recall, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, that in 2021 we passed a bill that came from the other body the idea was to make bicycle riding more safe in the Commonwealth. We struck a provision of that bill. We struck a provision that I've got before you right now. I made a determination after that vote to learn as much as I could about the so-called Delaware stop or Delaware yield and Idaho stop. And what I found is that since 1982, there have been 9 states that have adopted one or both of those options. And last year, Colorado adopted a bill similar to what I've got you before you right now to allow localities to decide whether to allow the Idaho yield and the Colorado stop. And that's simply what this bill does. The third part of that bill that we didn't pass 2 years ago, we now pass, under this bill, we'd pass to the localities. We'd allow them to pass an ordinance. What else I learned is that in the states where this is the law, bike riding is more safe. There are fewer accidents. There are fewer fatalities. And so I'd ask you to give our localities a chance to become an experiment for bike riders in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Chair recognizes Senator Normand, the gentleman from James City County.
Madam President, if the gentleman would be so generous to yield for a question.
I yield.
Gentleman yields. Senator Norman has the floor.
Madam President, my question to the gentleman would be, is this going to be a local option or is this a state mandate?
It's
Senator Deeds.
Madam President, I'd say to the gentleman that the whole purpose of the bill is to make this a local option. You know, we rejected 2 years ago the notion that this would be a state mandate.
Senator Norman.
Madam President, speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
I'm comforted with the fact that it is a local option. I still think it's an absolutely horrific idea, and I shared with you in some graphic terms that actually translated into a coffee mug that reminds me of perhaps my inappropriate characterization of it, but it was an accurate characterization of the bikers in our community. And I live very near what is the Capitol Trail that runs from Richmond to Williamsburg. And at each point where the Capitol Trail crosses, say, a subdivision entrance, there are stop signs. I used to be an avid runner. I've been an avid biker, and I realize the compelling importance of keeping your heart rate up and do not get interrupted for anything. And the number of times that a stop sign crossing an intersection that leads into a subdivision that bikers stop is very rare. And I don't know about other parts of the state, but I'm not talking about 1 or 2 bikers coming through. They use the subdivision I live in as a shortcut from Jamestown to the Capitol Trail. I'm talking 30 to 50 bikers. And they don't want to slow down or interrupt their heartbeat. So what they will do is as they approach this intersection to a secondary highway, they always have a trailer. And then they spread out so a car cannot get around them so they can get through the intersection without stopping. And sometimes they get on the highway and block traffic both ways so that the oncoming traffic cannot stop them from slowing down. So I'm comforted that it's a local option, but it is a absolutely horrible idea. And if you try to call their attention to it, they get very indignant. And that's where some hand gestures take place at times on it. And it's not the first time I've enjoyed a hand gesture in my life. And you got half of it right, Senator Marston. But I really think just from a safety standpoint, it is a very bad idea. And there's already a mentality out there amongst many of them that we don't have to stop anyway. If we can get through what we think is safe, we'll do it. And this is going to do nothing more than encourage that.
Senator Stewart, the gentleman from King George.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the senator yield for a question?
Senator Deeds, will you yield?
I yield.
The gentleman yields. Senator Stewart has the floor.
Madam President, please forgive my seatmate. He can't control himself today. I'd ask the gentleman on line 80, where it says reasonable speed and yielding the right-of-way if necessary. Madam President, what does that mean? You either yield right away or you don't have to yield right away. And so someone has to have the right-of-way and the other person does not. And does that mean the bicyclist gets to make the decision as to whether or not yielding is necessary? And what happens if the bicyclist determines that it isn't, gets run over? Who's liable?
Senator Deeds has the floor.
Madam Chair, I would say to the gentleman that it is, of course, up in the whole idea of the law is to allow bicyclists to make a brief stop at a stoplight, and if all's clear, they make a decision to go, and to make a decision if all is clear when they get to a stop sign to roll through the stop sign. If that decision is wrong, the liability, I assume, Madam Chair, is on the bicyclist if they've made the wrong decision.
So, Madam President.
Senator Stewart.
So
further question?
Yes, Madam President.
Will the gentleman yield?
I yield.
Gentleman yields. Senator Stewart.
So I guess I would ask the gentleman, Madam President, was it his intention not to give right-of-way to the bicyclist, but for the car to continue to have right-of-way?
Senator Deeds has the floor.
Madam Chair, if the car has the right-of-way, the car has the right-of-way. This change, which has been enacted in 9 states so far, including in this form in Colorado last year, is to make sure that a bicyclist has the right-of-way when the coast is clear, that a bicycle can go through a traffic signal
I'm confused.
and does have the right-of-way at that point.
I think I'm more confused now, Madam President. I thank the gentleman.
Well, Madam Chair, if I could,
Senator
I don't mean to confuse the gentleman. If a car's coming, of course the bicycle doesn't have the right-of-way. The way this is drafted is to make sure the bicycle can go when the car's not coming, not to be impeded by a traffic signal. This is the law in 9 states, and it's worked to produce a safer environment for the bicyclist, and that's why I'd ask you to pass the bill.
Senator Favola, the gentlelady from Arlington.
Madam President, I rise to speak in favor of the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess I would draw attention to the lines dealing with a locality must by ordinance authorize this. Many of you are aware that when a locality has to adopt an ordinance, they're under the Administrative Procedures Act, which means they have to have a public hearing. The constituents and stakeholders in the community come and speak. Oftentimes, a jurisdiction pulls together a group of stakeholders to consider an issue. So I would submit that localities, if they choose to adopt an ordinance that actually does what we have been discussing, which would allow bicyclists to come to a slow stop, if you will, at a red light, they will analyze the safety measures. They will have met with their folks who are on the bicycle advisory committees, which most jurisdictions have, and they will have received public comment. And the ordinance could also specify if and when a yield requirement must be in place. So I do think there are enough protections here, and having made my case, I do hope it's the wish of the body to pass this bill. Thank you.
Senator Peake, the gentleman from Lynchburg.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to see if the senator formerly from Bath, currently from Charlottesville, would yield for a question.
Will the senator from Charlottesville yield? The senator...
The senator from Charlottesville yields.
Thank you, Madam President.
Gentleman yields.
I have a question. And I apologize to the senator. I was not in Transportation Committee meeting to ask this question. And it's a question I frequently get asked. I mean, has any bicyclist been charged with failure to stop at a stop sign? Is this a common charge that we have seen from our law enforcement?
Senator Deeds has the floor.
Madam President, I'd say to the gentleman that I just don't know what the statistics are that are. I would say to the gentleman that as a result of our instruction in 2021, the National Highway Transportation Safety Organization looked at this, and the statistics are compiled in some place. I'm just not familiar enough with them right now. What I can tell the gentleman is that this has produced a safer environment for bicyclists in the states that have enacted it. And as my friend from Arlington articulated much better than me, it's up to this would be, even under this bill, it would be up to the localities after they hold the public hearing and go through the ordinance process to pass.
Senator Peake.
Thank you. I thank the gentleman. Thank you.
Senator Obenshain, the gentleman from Rockingham.
Madam President, I would ask if the gentleman, before he gets too comfortable in his chair, whether the senator from Charlottesville would yield for a question.
Will the senator from Charlottesville yield?
I yield.
The gentleman yields.
Madam President.
Senator Obenshain has the floor.
Madam President, thank you. My question to the gentleman would be, if I am driving a car and I approach a stop sign, and I look both ways to my left and to my right, and I see nobody coming in either direction, but I have a red light. If I identify as a bicyclist, can I proceed through the intersection and claim the protection of this statute?
The gentleman from Charlottesville has the floor.
I would say to the gentleman that there's nothing in this bill that gives a locality the ability to enact an ordinance that gives a car the right to identify as a bicycle.
I thank the gentleman for illuminating the discriminatory nature of this traffic regulation.
The question, finally, is, will Senate Bill 1293 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, no 16.
Ayes 24, no 16. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills with second reading.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 8 through 10, and that's Senate Bill 1367 through Senate Bill 1536, that be advanced to their engrossment in third reading after a block, after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 8 through 10, Senate Bill 1367 through Senate Bill 1536, be engrossed and advanced to their third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring a bill to be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 1367, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary, and there's a floor substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Vogel, the gentlelady from Fauquier.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to respectfully request that Senate Bill 1367 come out of the block and go by for the day. We have a floor amendment, but we need to make an amendment to that floor substitute, actually. Change the word, so it'll come back tomorrow. Thank you, Madam President.
Without objection, Senate Bill 1367 is out of the block and by for the day.
Senate Bill 838, reported from the Committee on Local Government with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the gentlelady from Hampton.
Madam President, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1091, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 1163, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 1185, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 1205, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 1534, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections, and then reported from the Committee on Local Government with a substitute.
1524.
1524.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Donovan, the gentlelady from Enrico.
Thank you, Madam President. Could that bill come out of the block and go by for the day, please?
Without objection, Senate Bill 1524 is out of the block and by for the day.
Senate Bill 1535, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 1536, reported from the Committee on Local Government.
The question is, shall the Senate bills now be engrossed and advanced to their third reading. That is, all bills except for Senate Bill 1367 on page 8 and Senate Bill 1524 on page 10. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed and advanced to their third reading. Chair recognizes Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that the all Senate bills that are now on their third reading of the uncontested calendar, that's again pages 8 through 10, and Senate Bill 1367 through 1536, that the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of the title be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third reading of the titles of the bills be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion? Senator Suderline? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended and the third reading of the titles is dispensed with. The bills are now on their final passage before the Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all the Senate bills now on third reading of the uncontested calendar on pages 8 through 10, and again Senate Bill 1367 through 1536, be placed on their final passage in a block. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, now on their third reading, pages 8 through 10, Senate Bills 1367 through Senate Bills 1536, be placed upon their final passage in the block with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill to be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are again before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 838, Senate Bill 1091, Senate Bill 1163, Senate Bill 1185, Senate Bill 1205, Senate Bill 1535, Senate Bill 1536.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? All in favor of passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 1047, a bill relating to the Virginia Petroleum Products Franchise Act. Refiner includes supplier of motor fuels. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute. And there's a floor substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator McPike, the gentleman from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Move the waive the reading, the floor substitute.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? Those in favor of that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. And move the adoption of the floor substitute and speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. So the original bill as drafted was, you probably got some feedback that was maybe perhaps more ineloquently defined and grouping in jobbers or distributors as refiners, and obviously they don't refine for a purpose of an actual petroleum production, refine fuel. This is taking a little bit different approach to make sure the definition of supplier as enacting in Planning District 8, and so it's only Northern Virginia, as it pertains to a franchise. And so it ties those two together to make sure that the franchise relationship is still in fact, enforced, where you have the market equations impacting both those who own the land and distribute the fuel and control both sides of the equation. Therefore, your local gas station owner still has a fighting chance at having the basic necessities of independent appraisal of lease price, right of first refusal, and the basic necessities to protect their family's lifelong business. That is the substitute, Madam President, and ask for its adoption.
The question is, shall the floor substitute be accepted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The floor substitute is accepted. Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. And now I move the bill be engrossed in advance to its third read.
The question is, shall the bill now be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1180, a bill relating to elections administration, acceptance of certain services permitted, acceptance of money and grants permitted under certain circumstances. Reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the gentleman from Alexandria.
I move the committee amendments.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be accepted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are accepted. Senator Eben.
I guess, are we advancing these to move?
Yes, yes, sir.
So I move the bill pass and speaking to the
No,
bill?
sir. It's engrossed in advance.
I move that we engross and advance the bill to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1014, a bill relating to restrictive covenants, prohibited use of Loudoun County recreational property. Reported from the Committee on Local Government with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Bell, the gentleman from Loudoun.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be accepted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is accepted. Senator Bell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill be engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading.
Senate Bill 1141, a bill relating to affordable housing, local zoning ordinance authority, comprehensive plan. Reported from the Committee on Local Government with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator McPike, the gentleman from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Move the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Move that the bill be engrossed in advance to its third read.
Question is, shall the bill now be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1312, a bill relating to electric vehicle charging stations. Reported from the Committee on Local Government with amendment and a floor amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Boysko, the gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I would like to move that we withdraw the floor amendment.
Without objection, the floor amendment is withdrawn. Senator Boysko.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, I move we adopt the the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendment from the Committee on Local Government be accepted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is accepted. Senator Boysko.
Madam President, I move we engross the bill and move it to the third constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1394, a bill relating to removal of trash and clutter from property localities in Planning District 6, reported from the Committee on Local Government with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Lewis, the gentleman from Accomack.
Yes, Madam Chair. I am going to, in 2 seconds, I'm going to ask you to adopt the committee amendments. That's what I want to do.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be accepted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are accepted. Senator Lewis.
Now, Madam Chair, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced on to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1537, a bill relating to Town of Pound in Wise County Charter, reported from the Committee on Local Government.
Chair recognizes Senator Pillion, the gentleman from Washington.
Madam President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and the chair is uncertain. We will have a recorded vote. All in favor of agreeing to the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
Chair calls on Senator Saslaw, the senior senator from Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on first reading on the uncontested and regular calendar, that's pages 14 through 39, Senate Bill 806 through 1447, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 14 through 39, Senate Bills 806 through Senate Bills 1447, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senator Saslaw. Go by. Senator, you said?
That the bills be passed by for the day.
Thank you, sir. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will now go by for the day.
Uncontested calendar. Senate Joint Resolutions on third reading. Senate Joint Resolution 256, designating the first Sunday after Veterans Day in 2023 and in each succeeding year as Warrior Call Day in Virginia.
Chair recognizes Senator Vogel, the gentlelady from Fauquier.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the resolution pass.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This resolution is something that the advocates have been pushing at the federal level as well as in all 50 states, and it deals with addressing the real tragedy that has befallen many of those men and women who've been in service, and the fact that they are often isolated. And the notion is that we have a day every year where we focus on calling them and reaching out to them. And so this is our Warrior Call Day. And with that, I ask that we pass the resolution.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The resolution is agreed to.
Senate Joint Resolution 274, acknowledging with profound regret the unethical use of black bodies by medical institutions in the Commonwealth.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County, Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we accept the resolution.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Speaking to the resolution, I recently it was made aware to me that individuals were not treated like they should have when they passed away, and that the medical community actually used black people's bodies and harvest their organs without their families' permission to do science research on them. And to paraphrase the theologian Richard Rohr, we cannot heal those kinds of wounds until we really address them and acknowledge them. And that's what this resolution is intended to do. In the 1800s, medical practitioners at the Medical College of Virginia were known to have acquired remains for instruction in anatomy and surgery by employing grave robbers to dig up recently buried bodies in black cemeteries. In 1994, while planning for new construction at the Medical College of Virginia, the East Marshall Street well was discovered with remains of at least 53 individuals who had been disposed of, and most were African or of African descent, and 9 of whom were children under the age of 14. Additionally, as late as 1968, the Medical College of Virginia determined that a black laborer with a severe head injury would not survive, and thusly, led by Dr. Lower and Dr. Hume, used the patient's living organs in the very first human-to-human heart transplant in Virginia and in the American South without knowledge or consent of the patient or his family. And the family was finally made aware of the transplant when the undertaker, preparing the body for burial, told them that the heart and the kidneys had been removed. Today we have the opportunity to say that this was wrong, that we would have horrible regret. I carried this at the request of members of the NAACP in Loudoun County who came and testified before the Rules Committee, and I move that we accept and pass the resolution. Thank you.
The question is, shall the Senate joint resolution be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The Senate joint resolution is agreed to.
Uncontested calendar Senate Joint Resolution on first reading. Senate Joint Resolution 231, proposing an amendment to Section 6-A of Article 10 of the Constitution of Virginia relating to real property tax exemption, surviving spouses of soldiers who died in the line of duty.
Chair calls on Senator Saslaw, the senior senator from Fairfax County.
Madam President, I require the clerk to complete the calendar for today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Hearing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Wednesday, February the 1st, the Committees on General Laws and Technology will meet 15 minutes after adjournment at Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. The Committee on the Judiciary will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment, Senate Room A, Pocahontas. The Commerce and Labor Subcommittee on Energy will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment, Subcommittee Room 2, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senator Spruill, Norman, Newman, Lucas, and Marsden. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Transportation will meet at 4 p.m., Subcommittee Room 1, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Barker, Zaslaw, Hanger, Newman, Deeds, Marsden, and McClellan. Tomorrow, Thursday, February the 2nd, the Hampton Roads Caucus will not meet. This is a schedule change. Hampton Roads Caucus will not meet. The Committee on Education and Health will meet at 8 o'clock a.m., Senate Room A, Pocahontas. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m., Senate Room 1 in the Capitol. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m., Senate Room 2 in the Capitol. And you have 12 shopping days.
Chair recognizes Senator Hanger, the gentleman from Augusta.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a brief announcement.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The Outdoor Recreation Caucus, which sometimes involves riding bicycles, will meet this evening for a caucus meeting at 6 p.m. in the Pocahontas Building on the second floor. The second floor is where we're going to meet. And after that, at 7 o'clock, everyone is invited. We're going to have a reception over on 8th Street, a short walk over where the, I think it's Commonwealth Strategies at their offices, and we were going to feature ribs and cornbread. So hope y'all can find time to get over there this evening and join the Outdoor Recreation Caucus. Thank you.
Thank the senator. Chair now calls on Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon on tomorrow.
The question is, shall the Senate now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow? All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.